and Blake have done all right for themselves. Got together in 2007. They won the Album of the Year award at the Classical Brits in 2008. They sang for Shirley Bassey at their 70th birthday party. They have a new album out now called Start Over. This is a track from it.
Someone's gone out fishing, someone's high and dry, someone's on a mission to the lonely Lorelei.
From Blake with us now on BBC Radio Nottingham. Humphrey, Ollie and Stephen. An album called Start Over is just out. How are you doing, lads?
We're very well. Very happy, very excited, and good to be with you.
And what about this album then? It's fourth studio album?
It is. It is our fourth, but it's taken us nearly 3 years to make it.
Is that because you've been so busy going everywhere around the world?
Well, that's the thing. It's very hard to get round to these things, to be honest, you know. But we have been busy. We've been touring like crazy, both in the UK and overseas. But we took time on this album for a couple of reasons. One, because it was an evolution of our sound, and a very big evolution that we wanted to get right. And two, because we kind of picked up songs as we went along, and we kept on finding good things we wanted to add to it. So we ended up with a lot of songs which had to be distilled down, but it did take us quite a long time to do. But here it is now in all of its kind of plasticky beauty,
Yes.
right in front of you.
Oh,
Yes.
There's a great quote from someone who spent 2 years making an album, plasticky beauty.
Well, I meant more in its packet rather than it being
we know
plastic.
what you meant now.
I've got it here in all its plasticky beauty and polycarbonate in abundance. Here.
It sounds excellent. Yeah.
Not just music, but a frisbee too. So it's very
It's a beautiful night for love, a wonderful sight for lovers and love to behold.
We better sort of sort out who's who, really, because this is the problem with the radio.
It is.
Now we need to say Humphrey's there, so...
Hello, this is Humphrey. I am sitting on the left, if anyone wants to know, in the studio, just so you know.
Right, and Ollie, hello.
Hello, I'm on the right-hand side of Mr. Plastic Fantastic, Stephen Bowman, in the middle. There he is.
Yes, I'm in the middle.
Yeah.
Piggy in the middle.
Stephen's got the lowest speaking voice of the three.
I also am the bass baritone of the group as well.
That's worked out rather well, hasn't it?
Yeah.
He likes it. He sort of puts on the low voice for the ladies. I'm a bit higher, so I can't really do
I
that.
actually speak like this. Like Orville.
We've got to just touch on Jules, the departed member of Blake, because he
Yeah.
appears on the album.
No, he
Yes.
is, and he's a very, very important part of the album, and
Yeah.
a very important part of Blake. For those who don't know Blake had been going 6 years, and Jules was one of the founding members, and he studied acting before Blake, and I think acting's always been one of his great passions, and he, I think, we knew eight months ago or so that he was looking to go on to a new venture in the acting world, and he very cleverly got an audition and offer to go and be in Holby City.
Yeah.
So he's gone off to do that, and we wish him well. But we're very excited as a three. We've been touring and performing and recording as a three now for a few months, and it's working extremely well. So it's very exciting.
If you could turn back the hands, if you could make the tape play back.
I don't want to go on too much about this much, but how did you know? Did he tell you, or was it obvious?
He
Like
sent us a text message.
Did you
No,
find
genuinely, he
scripts lying around? He sent you a text message?
No.
He
I
chucked
mean,
you by text.
we
Good
knew
Lord, no.
we knew that Jay, as I said, was wanting to, and he was very open with us and said, guys, I love Blake very much, but I'm wanting to do some acting work, and so we knew he was auditioning. The Holby element did catch us by surprise to a certain degree. It came up very suddenly, and he had to make a very sudden decision.
Yeah.
And was put in that position by the BBC as these things happen. They said there's a job here and it starts in 2 weeks. Do you want it? And
Damn the BBC. Who'd work for them, honestly?
I know, they're swines.
And obviously for us that wasn't ideal. It was sort of thrust upon us, but we've worked very hard to adapt our sound. We had shows starting only a few weeks later, so it was a pretty scary time. But I think actually we've come out of it stronger and more excited, and have a slightly different but still very much a Blake sound.
Sometimes when you're taking off a plaster, it's better to rip it off really quickly rather than peel it off slowly. And I don't think Jules intended for that to be the case, but that's what ended up happening. We had to deal with the situation very quickly, and it thrust us into a trio situation which we'd never really imagined before. But as Ollie and Hub have said, we've now done countless concerts as a three. We've been recording as a three, and it just feels right. It is genuinely a magic number for us.
Well, don't any more of you leave, otherwise you'll have to be doing Everly Brothers
That
covers.
turns us into Bros or something like that.
That's
doesn't
not
it?
good.
No.
We don't want to get on the Bros line. But no, thankfully none of us are aspiring actors, so we're pretty safe at the moment.
On to the album again, then start over. Would you say it's a more pop direction you've taken? Because people would have known you as, taking a slightly boy band approach to classical music in the past.
Sure.
And
That's
now
fair.
you're sort of stepping into a more mainstream.
I
would
guess
you
what
say?
you are saying, yes, we've tried to be a bit more contemporary
Yeah.
with the sound. I think the vocal aspect, I mean, it's still all about the vocals. Our show has always been about vocals in whatever song it is that we're interpreting at the time, whether it be a sort of stoic classical anthem or, as you say, a U2 rock song, or as it happens on this new album, about 10 original songs written by various fantastic songwriters and arranged by us, and a few covers as well still. So I guess the only change is the more contemporary aspect of the music, but in terms of the actual vocal sound, it's still Blake.
Yeah.
People still realise that and can hear and interpret what they will out of the sound that they have known and loved, I guess, for the last 6 years.
Mums will still love it, basically. That's what he's trying to say.
In my arms tonight, you're gonna know what it's like to be loved so right.
Angle that you're saying, about starting out as a classical band, and I think sometimes that's not put people off, but certainly younger people are sort of, I don't want to go to something classical. And a lot of the time, especially the last few years, when we've got girls and boys coming in of sort of mid-teens upwards, they come up afterwards and they say, I thought it was a classical concert, but actually it was so different to what I expected, and absolutely loved it. And I think it's much more accessible because it's about vocal harmony. It's a long way from being a classical gig. It's a kind of musical experience more than anything.
It's very eclectic. It's classical, it's pop, it's rock, it's musicals. It really is something for everybody, which is we're very proud of.
And you worked with some interesting people on the album, and indeed recorded it at Peter Gabriel's Real World Studios, a lot of it. So,
Yep.
Was there a kind of world vibe going on at those studios? Because Peter Gabriel's famous for.
It's an amazing place. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know you don't really see him very often. You now and then see him changing a light bulb or something like that. But he's got, it's astounding. It's really well laid out. It's
Yeah.
it's a very cool environment to do an album in, and so much history.
Yeah.
I mean, so many amazing.
I would
bits
think
of
there
work
are
have been done.
exotic instruments lying around.
There are, and
Well,
wonderful old reel-to-reel tape
Yeah.
players that have been used.
He
on-
has his
yeah.
own little sort of den up in the woods.
Which I kept sneaking up to all the time.
And that is full of just extraordinary treasures and
Yeah.
sort of instruments you've never seen from some part of the globe you've never heard of, and it was a real treat to be there. And actually on our
Does he let you play with them?
Yeah,
well,
you can tell.
not- yeah.
Technically, we didn't touch
Not to his
anything,
knowledge.
Peter, but
That's a wonderful image of Peter Gabriel crouched in this sort of hideaway in the woods, saying, "You can look, boys, but don't touch."
it's not far off.
the other thing was he had all these incredible little trinkets around from all of his different albums, and my favourite one, I don't know if you ever watched the Sledgehammer music video. It's
Yeah.
very famous back in the late 80s, and he's got all of the original maquettes that we used in that particular video, and they're amazing to look at because they're all made of plasticine.
Yes,
And
it
it
was
was
like all single frames. wasn't
Yeah,
it? It
well,
was amazing.
people forget that music. Yeah, it was stop motion. People forget that music videos were very kind of hands-on back then, and he's got all the original bits from it. It's great fun.
Wow. And working amongst others on the knob twiddling and arrangement side with Simon May.
Oh, yeah,
Yes,
dear Simon.
EastEnders.
Dum, 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 dum. That's what most people will know Simon
Did
for.
you do that in front of him?
I couldn't resist. He looked at me and just shut up. He wasn't impressed. But no,
You know
dear
that bit
Simon.
wasn't his.
I know. That's the one bit he didn't write.
If you ever meet Simon May, just say, "Oh, I do love those drums" at the beginning, and he'll just give you this death stare that will go straight through you.
No, dear Simon, that's been a while now we worked with him, because he came to us a few years ago. He had a song, All of Me, which we ended up doing for the royal wedding.
And it's on this album now, isn't it?
It is. It's on the
Yeah.
album, and then there's another song on there called "I'm Drowning," and Simon's had a huge number of hits, and he's one of many people we've collaborated on this album with, and we worked with Simon, Diane Warren, a great producer called Tim Ross, obviously our American team. All sorts of people, and I think it's been a long time coming, but I think it binds together very well considering the number of different artistic influences it's been under.
We even used Michael Bublé's band, which is pretty awesome as well. He was on a sabbatical making babies, and the band weren't really doing anything, so they went into studios in New York and recorded all of the band backing for the album, which is pretty cool.
The album Start Over